Good morning, good morning. It's Monday Pause with Elizabeth Elenor, and we're talking about the layers of love. How was your weekend? If this is the very first time that you have been watching alive, I'd like to say hello and lovely to have you here. If this is one of the several times that you've watched, please put hashtag replay or say hello in the chat so that I know that you're on. They've got new stuff going on. I've got a star here for some reason. But I wanted to share a story. So once upon a time, there was this little girl that grew up in a family where there was, she was the only girl in the family, and her brothers were a lot older than her. Good morning, Pamela. And her dad was sick, and her mum was working all the time. And so she actually didn't have much time with her family. There was a lot of neglect, and she had to work out what was going on in life by herself because there wasn't anyone to really show her what was going on. And her dad really, really loved her and spent a lot of time with her and showed her a few things, but he was sick all the time, right? So he was doing the best he could, but that was as far as he could, because he was sick. He was sick, right? So he didn't really show her much. And when she was 15, he actually passed away. And it just ruined her whole life. She was totally destroyed. And she went on this crazy experience for the next 10 years trying to work out what life is about. And she did it with the very first partner that came along. Someone that she knew from school that she actually didn't really like at school. But he seemed different, and he seemed to be someone that knew what life was about, and he was a little bit quirky, right? So she was drawn to that energy. But through that quirkiness, he had his own damage. He was very damaged, and a lot of stuff from his childhood also caused him to have a lot of dysfunctions. And so here were two kids, right? Really, two kids trying to work out life in their dysfunction and trying to understand how to heal through each other. And it didn't really work, right? Does this sound familiar to anyone? Does anyone remember childhood sweethearts and the dysfunction that happens in childhood sweetheart romances, right? I remember that little girl was me, and I remember when the first partner I ever had, I desperately wanted him to show me love, give me unconditional love, and tell me that I'm safe, right? And he desperately wanted me to mother him and show me that that he was safe and that he was cared for. And neither of us knew exactly what we were doing. And we spent 10 years of doing this really dysfunctional relationship. And at the end of those 10 years, right at the very end, we had 2 children. And I woke up and went, holy crap, I really need to work out this system and what's going on here, because now I have other little beings that I'm responsible for. So I spent 10 years trying to work out life, and no one had shown me how to work out life. Does that sound familiar? If you are the same and no one showed you how to work out life, please put it in the chat. Because I spent 10 years trying to work out myself, trying to fix myself, trying to sort myself out, and trying to be a mum to these 2 little kids. Now, I did have a few sort of weird relationships in between, sort of a few things that were going on. Again, trying to find that validation, trying to find love. And then I found myself in another relationship. And this guy pursued me and wouldn't leave me alone. And I fell for him. He was this beautiful young guy. He was a guitarist. He looked like he had it all together. I, by that stage, had my life all together. I was very successful massage therapist. You know, my kids were really well behaved and beautiful children. I was healthy. All these wonderful things were happening in my life. I was very strong and confident by that stage. And he came in my life and, you know, saw this ticket and thought that he was going to be in this space with me. But as soon as we got married, he changed into Nazi Hitler. And it was, again, this really rocky, dysfunctional relationship. But at this stage, I'm starting to think that there's something wrong with me, right? How come I can't be in this relationship? And I was watching other women in my life that were in 10, 15, 20-year-old relationships and really loving their partner still, right? I'm like, if they can do it, why can't I? Is there something wrong with me that I can't be in this beautiful relationship? And I started internalizing, right? But working out, trying to do my best to work out what was wrong with me that I could not commit to a full long-term relationship. But what I discovered was that I was vibrationally attracting dysfunction because of my dysfunction. I was attracting people that needed healing because my dad needed healing, right? So I was attracting all of these wounded men that were needing my love and wanting my love, but then I wasn't getting that reciprocal energy back. I wasn't getting that emotional stability. I wasn't getting any emotion, actually, which was really interesting because that's what was happening in my relationship in my family. So I would love for you, as Monday Pause, to sit and reflect. What have you attracted when it comes to love in your relationships? Because we attract what is in our vibration. So here I was attracting over and over again men that were emotionally unavailable, that were, physically or mentally unwell in some way, and that I had to do my best to get their love from them, right? I was doing everything I could. Why are they not loving me the way I want to be loved? Now, I know other women that have had the experience of having men cheat on them, right? Now, I've never had a man cheat on me. However, I know plenty of women that have had men cheat on them over and over and over again. So this cycle that comes up, right, is not just like it's the same energy, different face. And it's because there's this vibration within us. Vibration is really fine-tuned, right? There's so many different layers to us, and there's so many different layers to love. So it's not just a matter of going, this is what I'm choosing and this is what I want to experience. There's all of these other layers that have to be explored, or you get to explore, right? You get to experience, why are these things coming up? What's going on? Or are they coming up? Because there's sometimes silent instructions. So what actually ended up happening was, again, I spent another 10 years by myself. I don't fall in love very easily, right? And I don't actually need someone to love me. There's another thing I see women. They go from man to man to man to man because they can't be by themselves, right? Am I touching any buttons anywhere? Because I've friends, beautiful women, strong, powerful women. There's this woman that I know that went from man to man to man to man to man. And I was like, and each single one of them physically and emotionally abused, physically abused her and emotionally neglected her, right? Every single one of she had 5 different partners in the period of time before she's finally realized that she needed to let go and be by herself for a while and do some mother wound healing, right? And father wound healing. So I want to ask you, what have you attracted into your life? Because there's all these different layers, right? So I spent, I spent 10 years again by myself. And this time I got to the age of 50 and I'm like, just prior to that, I was going, there's got to be a man out there that is a vibrational match to me. But that was a tricky one because my vibrational match meant all my wounding as well, right? All of the layers of stuff that I was finding and exploring and watching it show up. And so 10 years by yourself doesn't bring that stuff up. You need to be in relationship with someone to really see some of this stuff that's coming up. So I set the intention that I wanted to experience love. I think I've always wanted to experience what it feels like to be deeply emotionally, physically, mentally, loved and appreciated and validated, right? And so, you go through these layers of exploring. And if you are aware enough, if you're putting the time in, you can reflect, okay, what went wrong with that relationship? Why did this happen? I remember when I was married and I was trying to work out, why did I friggin' create another person in my life that's mentally dysfunctional and emotionally unavailable? What is going on with me, right? Why am I attracting this? And, you go into sometimes that victim thing, like, especially when you're in the middle of, a really dysfunctional relationship, it can be challenging not to feel like a victim sometimes. But, you can pull yourself out of it. With that particular relationship, I stayed and I stayed and I stayed until I could work out why I kept on creating this same friggin' cycle over and over again. And it was really hard staying because, my children were being affected. A whole heap of things were going on at the same time. And it wasn't until I went to, I actually went to a massage course that was a little bit unusual. It was a main self-care abdominal massage. And we were working on the womb area, right? So we're working on the belly button, which is connection to source, connection to the mother. We were working on the womb. We were doing all of this stuff. And I had some, pretty profound breakthroughs and emotional healing. And in that, I recognized that I had been conditioned from some friends as well as society, to believe, and, my own somehow personal beliefs, I don't even know where they came from, that as a healer, I had to heal everyone, right? As a healer, if you've got this talent, if you've got this ability, then you should be utilizing it in every moment of every day, right? But it wasn't until I had this, experience in this weekend retreat that I recognized that I had this, and I changed it and I shifted it and I moved into it and went, actually, that is really egotistical to think that because someone is wounded, I have to, like, me, Elizabeth, is so powerful that I'm the only freaking one in the friggin' world that can heal that person. How egotistical is that, right? And so in that moment, I was like, yeah, people, if people need to be healed, then if I don't do it, somebody else will do it, right? Like, I'm no one important. Everyone has the ability to be healed. And I had to recognize that some people, like, totally giving people the respect to be exactly who they choose to be, even if they're choosing dysfunction. That was a really powerful moment for me when I recognized that it was okay to totally respect someone to be whoever they friggin' want to be, even if they want to choose their dysfunction, that's something that I need to respect. Let them be whoever they want to be, right? And so that was really, really powerful when I recognized that it was okay. Hey, Nicolette, that it was actually okay to let someone be wounded if they chose that. And that was letting them have their power in whatever capacity that is. I literally went home, and as soon as I went home, I told him it was over, because I recognized what the cycle was. I recognized that I kept on drawing in these men that needed healing, and that I thought that I had to heal them. When I recognized what my ego was doing, when I recognized that that somehow I was taking this burden on, and I let go of it, that's when I was able to let go of that relationship. And I've never, ever experienced a relationship like that ever since. So I never had to. Hey, Leslie, lovely to have you. I just saw a post of yours this morning, with your beautiful husband and your beautiful daughter. I've never, ever had that energy come into my vibration anymore, because I shifted it. I shifted that energy. I didn't need that layer anymore. I didn't need that wounding. I cleared it within myself, which created more space for the right type of energy to come in. Now, what was really interesting, I needed for that energy to shift, and then I thought, which was separate, I moved down to Sydney. I had all these experiences with my mum, having to support her, clearing more wounding from my mother wounds, dealing with her having a heart attack. I ended up having to, a couple of years ago, we had to put her in a nursing home. And then I moved to Shell Harbour in New South Wales. And here I was walking down the beach, and actually I was standing at the beach, and Tim walked past at the beach and waved at me, right? All of those things would not have happened if I hadn't have sorted out those wounds and those layers of vibrational dysfunction prior to that. And so even in the relationship when I met Tim, I remember putting the intention in that whoever my man was going to be, that I would not miss him, right? That somehow I was going to smack him in the face. Now, my Elizabeth, the Elizabeth that grew up with friggin' Disney fairy tales, she thought that meant that as soon as I saw him, my eyes would sparkle and his eyes would sparkle, and there'd be this beautiful connection, and I would know that this was my man and all this stuff, right? Because conditioning, right? That's what we've been conditioned. That didn't happen. When I first met Tim, he walked up. I didn't even see him as someone that was a potential for me. We just started talking, right? I felt very extremely comfortable with him from the moment that I met him. And anyway, another wound came up without me even realizing. So here I was, I didn't get that big flash of sparkly energy and unicorns racing down the beach to say, that's him, that's him, that's him. It didn't happen like that, right? What happened was we became friends, and he was keen straight away, but I was saying no, just friends. I was seeing all these dysfunctions in him that were different to others. Tim had been in a 20-year relationship, marriage before we actually met. And he'd been by himself for 3 or 4 years. So extremely loyal, and which was very different. I'd never experienced anything, any partners like that before. But I kept on saying no. And it's really interesting because my higher self, the part of me that knew, really liked hanging out with him. But I kept on saying no, 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 no. And it was really interesting because we had known each other for quite a few months before we were having a conversation, and he was eating crap, right? I can't even remember what he was eating, but he was eating something. And next thing I know, before I even, it was just like a slight, statement. I said, you really need to change your diet. I don't want you dying on me, right? And I heard myself and go, wow, that's a really weird thing to say. Anyway, I think it was about a month later, I said the same thing again, something similar. And it wasn't until I said it the second time that it hit me. Something came up and I realized that the last man to love me as deeply as Tim does was my dad, and he died on me when I was 15. And this whole energy came up. Like I literally, I couldn't breathe. I actually turned around and started going, we were in a hotel up in the Gold Coast, and I turned around and went and made a cup of tea so he wouldn't see the drama of like, holy shit, what just happened? What did I just discover? And I discovered that I was not letting him in because of this wounding, that if I let him in, he was going to hurt me because he was most probably going to die on me, right? So this pattern of behavior that happened. I tell you what, it wasn't until I was able to let go of that and release that with my processes that I do, right, with recoding, because that was a really deep one, that everything started to shift, and I let him into my heart, and I allowed myself to love him as deeply as he was loving me. And it was a really beautiful experience. The expansion, the awareness, the depth, the embodiment, the synchronicity, all of a sudden, we're already in sync, but there was something even deeper that happened, I'm asking you as a reflection for today, how do you tune in to your love relationships or your friendship relationships, whatever relationships, your work colleague relationships, right? Your business, your team. How are you communicating? Where is your heart? What wounds may be getting in the way of you deeply connecting with yourself and with others? So that's my question for you today. That's something for you to reflect on. How deeply are you allowing yourself to feel, to experience, to connect? And what's getting in the way of you experiencing that? And what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? So we are going to have another webinar this month. We haven't done a webinar for a little while. I'm doing a 90-minute webinar called Rewire Your Heart for Love. And we're going to be talking about all this stuff. How to clear those, pathways, the things that are getting in the way that are causing that block to you fully expressing yourself here in this body, right? For you fully connecting with yourself so that you can fully connect to others. And if you think that you've done all the work, then that's the ego talking, because we never finish, right? We're always, there's more layers, there's more layers, there's more layers. So if you're interested and would love to be part of our free webinar, put yes please or love heart in the chat, and we will get you the link. It's the end of the month. I should have worked that out. I never do. I think it's on the 25th or 24th or something, in the evening for those in Australia. And yeah, looking forward to sharing this. The last time I ran this, it was a really popular webinar. So that's why energetically I wanted to align to the people that missed out, because it seems to be something that a lot of women, because we're holding people pleaser, right? The good girl stuff, all, you know, we've got these wounds of being abused and neglected and friggin' cheated on and all that sort of shit that goes on, right? All of that stuff is affecting us right now in all of our relationships. So if you're interested, we'll get that to you, Maria. And anyone else that's interested, just put a yes please, love heart, and we will send you the link. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week.